Qualifying has wrapped up at the Dutch Grand Prix, and let's get into reviewing everything that happened. We'll go through all the qualifying sessions. Let's start with Q1. So, Stroll spins out again. It's another one. He did it in free practice, and he's done it again in the qualifying session, meaning that he didn't finish, he'll finish from the back. His mechanics must be so frustrated. They stayed up all night. They passed curfew to get the car ready. It was looking really competitive at the beginning of the weekend, but he's gone and crashed it once again. The wind was more significant today, so it could be that it caught him out. Luckily, unlike a lot of the practice sessions, none of the other drivers really had any major incidents, but it looked like it caught Stroll out. The rain overnight may have made the track feel a bit more green, a little less grippy, and track evolution definitely helped throughout the session. So, unfortunately, no Stroll in the rest of qualifying and to actually see the potential of that Aston Martin. But another person who was out in Q1 was Hulkenberg, and he has an unfortunate record this season with all the Q1 exits that he's had. I believe it's been 10 in the 15, so it's probably 11 now. So unfortunately, he's been out-qualified by Gabriel Bortoleto again, but we know that Hulkenberg is indeed better in the race. He does really well, especially if it's mixed conditions. We've seen what he's been able to do in Silverstone. We saw what he did at the beginning of the season in Australia. So he's going to be brilliant, I'm sure, if they can really maximize whatever happens in some tricky conditions. So hopefully he can do that. And poor Colapinto is out again in Q1. He's really not performing the way Flavio wants to, with the words that he said during the team principal interviews. So they're not exactly happy with his performance. Now, he was only about, I want to say, 1 or 2 tenths behind Gasly in Q1, but because the field is so tightly packed, once you disregard the McLarens, it's so easy to be caught out. So unfortunately, although he wasn't actually that far off Gasly's time, and the Alpine doesn't seem to be that competitive this week, it was just not quite enough to keep him, to move him in onto Q2. But moving on to Q2 now, what a disappointment for Albon. Williams was feeling so competitive. They looked so good. But Albon just wasn't able to make the cut. And I believe he starts P15. He had some interesting words for the team, for the engineers. Something to do with tyres. He might not have liked how it was prepped or whatever it might be. But, there was some real frustration on Alex's side. And I understand because, of course, Carlos went on into qualify into the top 10. So hopefully, perhaps he'll be able to make his way through and score a point or two. But it looks like Williams, although had the potential to have both cars in the points, it looks like one of their cars, depending on strategy and how things go with the race, looks like that's going to be really the one looking for the points. So, unfortunately, that's a shame for Albon. And Tsunoda not qualifying out of Q2 to get into Q3, to get into the points. He looked not too bad. His times compared to Verstappen were actually not too far off. He looked a lot more comfortable and he's making the right steps. I believe he qualified P12. But unfortunately, still out of that top 10, bested by the 2 Racing Bulls drivers. I mean, again, they've said this stat a lot this weekend. Yuki Tsunoda has half the points that Liam Lawson has. And Liam Lawson was demoted from the top team into Racing Bulls. Took him some time, has found his feet. I mean, yeah, so disappointment for Tsunoda. Can he do something in the race? Who knows? Sometimes Zandvoort gives an amazing race. Other times, it's not so much because it's such a narrow track, a smaller track. It's difficult to overtake, but we will see. Disappointment for Tsunoda. And another person who it's a bit of a shame for is Kimi Antonelli. I mean, he was looking so good in the practice sessions, and even in Q1. He was actually quite close to Russell's time. I think he might have beaten Russell a few times in this weekend, but Russell was able to find that pace that he often does on a Saturday, and Kimi not doing too badly. I think it was expected he should really be in the points, but yeah, so outside the top 10 for Kimi and Antonelli, which is a bit of a shame, but we'll see again what happens in the race. He's won here in the more junior series twice before, I think, so maybe he can do something. Maybe his familiarity with the track can help on Sunday. And now, moving on to Q3, looking at the top 10, it's Piastri, which was a surprise, who took pole, beating Lando out by something like 12 thousandths of a second, which, I mean, the margins are just so close between the two of them. All weekend, free practice 1, 2, and 3, Lando had been quickest in in Q1, Q2. I think he was quickest in those as well. But it was Piastri somehow I was able to find that little bit of extra pace, and whereas the rest of the weekend he's seemed a bit more on the back foot, he was able to find that pace and stuck it on pole. So although Lando will probably be quite disappointed with that because of how brilliant his form has been, looks like Piastri came on top. Interestingly, the second run in Q3, neither of the McLaren drivers improved on their times. So that's interesting. I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was the wind, maybe it was traffic in the way, I don't know. But yes, so it's going to be Piastri, Norris, and then Verstappen, who was not far off the McLarens, really, considering how insanely quick they have been. So with the last few races with Verstappen not going that well at all, he's now put himself back into the podium mix now. So him winning, 3 times at the track before, he's got a good chance of getting on the podium. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I reckon P3 is probably his. The McLaren is just too fast. I'm not quite sure if that Red Bull is up to keeping up with them, but I reckon he'll be able to keep the rest of the field at bay. And a surprise, Isaac Hadjar, after having a slight slip in form the last few races with Lawson coming out ahead, P4 in a Racing Bull. I mean, I'll tell you something. He can't be upset with that. No one at Racing Bulls can be upset with that. Absolutely incredible. Both the Racing Bulls in the top 10, with Lawson getting P8. So yeah, just impressive stuff. I mean, Isaac was the star of qualifying there. It was a brilliant qualifying, getting ahead of both Mercedes, both Ferraris, a Red Bull. Like Hadjar is up there. Speaking of the Ferraris, I mean, they got into Q3, I guess. They're both in the top 10, P6, P7, 6, 7. It's not brilliant, but they have looked a lot slower throughout this weekend. So it's been a really tricky weekend that I've had to work the way up in. I reckon it won't move that much. We'll see if Isaac can stay where he is. We'll see if George can stay where he is. But, between Leclerc and Hamilton, I mean, we'll see who comes out on top. Hamilton looked like he had the edge probably all weekend. And in the other sessions and in Q1, Q2, that's what it looked like. But for half a tenth, Leclerc was able to best Hamilton in Q3. We'll see what happens. We'll see where they get to in the race. And finishing off the top 10, we've got Sainz in P9, Alonso P10. So, Sainz is not going to be unhappy with that, because Williams have said plenty of times that this track shouldn't be something that they're good at, but their car seemed quite competitive. And Aston Martin, again, another week when they've got a competitive car. So to have both of them in the top 10 makes sense to me. I think Carlos really needs a good race. It's not been that great in terms of points scoring. So it'd be really good for him to, get another couple points to the board and kind of see if he can get the clean weekends, the consistent points scoring throughout the next 10 races. Hopefully that can, brighten up his spirits, and everyone at Williams can kind of take whatever learnings they can from that and apply everything into their car next year. And again, Alonso can be happy with another top 10 finish in qualifying. Hopefully he can get another point or two in the race and kind of keep Aston Martin's form, because they've been looking good as of late. But that rounds up all of qualifying. Who knows what's going to happen? It could be that Lando's able to best Piastri in that opening lap, or they do something with the pit stops, or whatever the case may be. Maybe the mixed conditions can change things a little bit, but they're both brilliant drivers. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. I really think that this intra-team fight is going to go out right to the end, right to Abu Dhabi, right to the last race. We'll see. I have a suspicion that they will swap in the standings at some point, where Lando will be at the top for a little bit, and then we'll see what happens. But we will see what happens in the race. Yes, an interesting qualifying. Some surprises, some good ones, some bad ones. We'll see if Zandvoort can deliver a really good race, mixed conditions, not a wet race, but like light rain. Just kind of mixing up a little bit to see when you change from the inters to the slicks, or from the slicks to inters. We'll see what happens. That's when all the driver confidence and the brilliant team strategies will come in. So I really hope that happens for tomorrow, and then we will be going over everything in the race and having a whole full length episode. Weird, it was just me today, but Ree couldn't be here because she's watching the football, and that's a bit of a betrayal, but I can live with it. But never mind. Until next time, guys, we'll see you after the race. Bye.